We've got 4 of us here. My name is Kevin Brookhauser. I'm in Monterey, California. I'm an English teacher at York School. We've got here Jen Roberts. Jen? And Jen is in San Diego, right? Yep. She's nodding. And then from across the Atlantic, we have David Reed.
Hi.
Another new Google certified teacher. And also Caitlin. You're not on my list here, but Caitlin's here as well. And here we go. Everybody welcome. So we just thought we'd do an informal discussion here about Google Docs in the English classroom and share some things that we're doing and how we're using Google Docs. So we've got Carol, another Google certified teacher who may show up in a little bit. But Jen, you're on deck now after Carol. You were going to talk a little bit about using forms to scaffold student writing.
Yeah, and I kind of went a little overachiever on this, so if that just throws people off, I'm really sorry. I made slides. I like slides, so I thought I keep telling this story.
Oh, you're going to put us to shame.
I keep telling the story of this project that my students and I did. It's actually based on the work that my 9th grade team did. I have a really cool PLC, and so this is mostly not me. This is mostly, what they put together, and it's based on the Common Core standards, and it's just sort of a snapshot of a writing assignment we did with collaborative analytical writing, where we asked the kids to compare the Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe to the 1955 film noir The Night of the Hunter, which is a really cool movie. So I'm going to share my screen for a minute and just talk through some of these, and if I start to embarrass myself, you all let me know, okay? So let's see. I have to choose a window. Okay, choosing this window. Share selected window. There we go. This is using Google Docs to support writing in the time of Common Core standards. And so this was the standard. This is the big writing standard, 9th grade writing standard number 2. Right, informative, explanatory text, and then of course there's all this stuff underneath that kids have to do with that. We threw in a couple other standards as well. We liked, oh, come on, change the slide. There we go. Drawing evidence from literary or informational text. And a lot of this is about getting kids to include evidence in their writing, which they don't like to do. Quote the text, what's that, right? So, and then of course we were using a lot of technology to produce and publish and update their writing products, and also taking advantage of that to display the information flexibly, dynamically. So this was their prompt. I'll give you a moment to look over that. It's kind of scary. So given the short story and the movie, what's the theme and mood of both pieces? What techniques did the author and the director use to create the theme and the mood? Write a compare-contrast essay discussing the similarities and differences between these two. Keep in mind how the authors are using various techniques and how greed was playing a role in the stories. And then I put a link there, so I'll share these slides later. If somebody wants to actually go see what that prompt looked like on my class blog, you can go look at it. But that's, when our team first came up with that, I went, they're going to do what? Our kids are going to, that's an intimidating prompt even to me. But we broke it down, and they did it. So here's sort of how we did it. This is the story of how. Come on, slides. There we go. So Cask of Amontillado, of course, is a Poe story. For reasons he never discloses, Montresor lures us down into the catacombs and leaves his friend there, chains him up, and walls him in to die. It's very dark, very ironic, a lot of dramatic irony, that kind of thing. So we had to understand this text really well. We did all these things, double entry journals, plot profiles, storyboards. We watched a film version. We compared the film version to the storyboard that they made, which was a lot of fun because they kept thinking they were making storyboards because they were going to make their own movie. And that was a little scary for them, and then when they found out they just had to compare the film to their storyboard, they relaxed. It was a lot of fun. Looking for literary devices and writing about primal fear, that was all activities we did just to get them used to this fairly short story by Edgar Allan Poe, but it's Poe, so you have to read it a number of times and do a lot with it to really understand it. And then we asked them, this is the really cool part, this is where I started to use docs. We asked them with a partner to look through the story and find quotes that showed irony, mood, and theme. And I did this with the Google form, and this is the part where my part of it came in. So I gave them this form. Look, it's going to go to the link. Did it go to the link? Do you guys see the link now?
Not yet.
Slide. Let me see if I'm screen sharing. I wonder if I can change which screen I'm sharing. That's a bummer.
I think you have to share maybe the desktop so that it can show everything.
Yeah. Let me see if I can figure out how to do that. Well, I can switch. I can show you this. I can select a different window, but that's all it'll let me do. So we gave them this Google form. Find a quote from the story. That worked? Okay, so find a quote from the story that's irony, and then explain why it's an example of irony. And then, of course, find a quote that shows mood, explain why it shows the mood. And then find a quote that shows the theme, explain why it shows the theme. So they just thought that they were just kind of picking out a sentence here or there and adding to it. But all that ended up in a spreadsheet. Wrong one. Wrong one. That one. It ended up in this spreadsheet. Can you guys see the spreadsheet?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it ended up in here. We took their names off it. I took their names off it. I put it up in front of the class. And the big black boxes represent answers that the class decided were so far off that they never wanted to see them again. So and if we made it gray, it meant it's okay, it's on the right track, but you want to just kind of tweak it a little bit. You could use it if you tweaked it. So basically, at this point, we had this sort of class-generated list of examples from the story that were all different. And each of those examples came with an explanation of why it was irony or why it was mood or things like that. So that meant, let's see, that meant that they were totally ready to take on something else. Do that one. Okay. And so from there, this is an actual screenshot of what that spreadsheet looks like in case it didn't work. From there, we were ready to leave Poe alone for a while. They just kind of thought we were almost done with it. Left it alone. There we go. And we showed them Night of the Hunter. Of course, Robert Mitchum and Lillian Gish and all those things. And we thought, you know, this is a black and white 1955 movie. Is this really going to resonate with our kids? And they came out saying things like, that is my new favorite movie. They really loved it. They really loved it in conjunction with Casco Amontillado. They kept seeing the same kinds of themes, the same kinds of irony, the same kinds of mood. And of course, that's what we wanted them to see because they didn't know about the prompt that was coming. But we did, and we were getting them ready for that. So of course, when we were done, we looked at finding irony, mood, and theme in Night of the Hunter, which was a very similar looking form, and it produced a very similar looking spreadsheet. So they now had those two spreadsheets to pull from. And that meant that when we gave them the prompt and access to both of those spreadsheets, I also gave them a link. Here's the prompt, and here's your links to your quotes and analysis from Casco Amontillado and your quotes from Night of the Hunter. So what that meant is that they didn't have to spend their time looking for quotes. They could spend their time writing their essay, and they didn't have an excuse for not putting evidence in their essay. They couldn't say, oh, I couldn't find it, because they could go to a spreadsheet and look for it. We also gave them sentence outlines. We gave them some sentence frames, sample outline sentence frames. This is what the back wall of my classroom looked like. I have a Promethean board in the front of my classroom, but the back wall of my classroom is still a whiteboard. And so we kind of outlined what a paragraph would look like if it was actually citing evidence. Excuse me. And then we said sentence starters for each of those kinds of evidence. So if you're going to start evidence about the movie, you'll say in the scene where, or for instance, or a scene from the film that shows. They have to explain that, which again they can pull from their spreadsheets. This reveals, the effect here is that, etc. So a lot of support going into this for kids because, like I said, it's a tough prompt. We did writing groups. This happens in Google Docs. Every one of my kids is in a writing group. They have a shared collaborative doc, or shared collaborative folder, sorry. They take their writing doc, they use the Organize button in Google Docs and put it into their group folder, and then everybody in the group can see their thing, see their writing. And they have to follow some real specific writing group procedures. There's a link there. You can access them later. It's just sort of a step-by-step process for a protocol that's based on the National Writing Project protocol for writing groups. They use the insert comment feature and add all those comments to the papers. And then, of course, we did writing groups for several days. You know, take your paper through, take your paper through. And, of course, I'm looking at their writing in Google Docs all the time anyway. And then when they're done, they get to self-evaluate their essay. We used a Google form for that. Um, they have links to the rubric. One of you is really noisy. I can't see you, though. Then we use the comment section to explain why you scored your essays when you did. So these are sort of the findings of that, if you think of this as a little bit of analysis. Overwhelmingly found that adding evidence to their writing was a lot easier when they can pull from the spreadsheets. Their writing showed much higher quality analysis of that evidence because they didn't have to spend time looking for the evidence. They used the academic language structures, and they came up with some really insightful connections in the story.
Take it out. I'm having feedback.
You guys okay?
Jennifer, that's very, very cool.
So we had a lot of success with it. Let me turn off my screen share. We also found that, oops, where does that go? Yeah. So when they didn't have to spend that time looking for evidence, they were a lot more willing to try this challenging task. They developed an understanding that we expected them to have evidence, like, hey, by the way, your paper needs evidence. Now they understood what that meant.
Yeah.
And when we gave them an on-demand writing, where we asked them to compare two poems, they quoted the poems constantly because they understood now that they needed to do that to write about them. So that all went really well. It was a huge success. I don't know how to take screen sharing off. Anyone know how to turn it off?
I think you did. We can see you now.
Oh, good. So that was, I don't know, it's a story I told to my pre-service teachers, and I've been talking to other teachers about it too, and I thought I should formalize this and put it all in a presentation so I can go through those slides easily and show people what we did. So that was our, the big aha breakthrough for a lot of people was the idea that kids could use forms to collect evidence and then use that evidence in their writing. A really nifty trick.
That is awesome. I love that idea. And the idea of the spreadsheets is so, like, as you're talking, I'm thinking about, like, the beginning of the year, you get those kids coming in, at least for me in 9th grade, and they have, you know, figurative language is like, you have to go through, you know, here's symbolism, here's foreshadow, here's all of these different ideas and theme and irony that we want them to just become familiar with, at least in the beginning. And part of me is thinking, well, we can create or like attach a short story or poetry and then create one of these spreadsheets and kind of list these different kinds of figurative language or the ideas that we want them to start to be aware of, then they as a group can be kind of filling in the blanks, and it's almost differentiated in a way because they can kind of, if I understand theme really well, okay, well then I'm going to look through the story and I'm gonna hunt down an example of theme, and I can just describe why I think this is an example of theme. And if I feel like I don't have a handle on foreshadow, then I can read what somebody else has added to the spreadsheet and learn quite a bit for them. So, and even for vocabulary, you know, if you're giving them a vocab list and you're asking them to like generate some examples, let's create some sentences that communicate the definitions of these words, and instead of every kid having to do the 15 sentences or whatever, they can just add to a really cool spreadsheet that they can keep throughout the year and constantly be referring to, which I love that idea.
And part of one of the technical tricks to it is that the kids, when they submit the form, they're putting in their name and their partner's name, and they're putting in all their information. And then I just go hide that column. You know, you can do that in forms. In spreadsheets, you can hide a column. So before I publish the spreadsheet, I hide the column that has their name on it.
Oh, great.
And then for me, I make a copy of the spreadsheet so I can still look at it by kid, and I can even give them, I could give them an individual grade for their contribution to the form or to the spreadsheet if I wanted to. But more importantly, I want their work to be public to the rest of their classmates so they can use it to support each other.
Oh, I love this idea. It's great.
Yeah, I like how it takes this otherwise isolated experience of writing a literary analysis, making it much more collaborative, team-based. And do you find that, are you comfortable with the fact that people are using each other's work in their research and using passages that other students are finding?
I am, because it's a short story by Poe. You know, I think the challenge, you know, it's not like they're, you know, the challenge in 9th grade is getting kids to understand that they need to have evidence in their writing. It shouldn't be about teaching them to go find the evidence, which in effect is what happens when they have to do it for the form. But it's sort of, you sort of separate those two tasks and make them discrete skills. Today we're going to look for evidence. Tomorrow you're going to use it in your writing. And by the way, you're going to not only be able to use what you found, but you'll be able to use what everybody else found and get ideas.
Yeah.
So they like that. It's very supportive for them. I've done it before with 11th graders who are really struggling, and it was fun this time to do it with 9th graders. I have a differentiated 9th grade classroom. It's detract. I have all range of learners in there, and I really like that I can accommodate all of them. You know, and everybody feels like, ooh, I contributed that quote, and they know which ones they put in there. And if there's some redundancy, it just means that everybody thought that was a really good quote, you know.
Right. And if their quotes aren't strong, their essays aren't going to be very strong. And so if they're able to, you know, seek out some quotes, but then they're able to recognize that, oh, wow, actually this is a much stronger quote and I can use that. One of the biggest issues I see at the 9th grade level is the need to, like, shift them from plot summary into that real analytical space. And so here you're also really scaffolding that in a way that's, like, very visible. Okay, here's the example of irony. Explain why it's irony. Let's get to the bottom of this. And I would imagine that the progress over time, if you continued to do this, would just be remarkable.
It is, because you really, that's exactly the thing you're talking about, is that they can identify all kinds of literary stuff. You know, they can point to the simile, they can point to a metaphor, they can point to irony, they can point to theme, but can they explain why?
Right.
You know, can you back it up? Can you analyze it? So that's the level that we're trying to push them toward.
So for people who are less familiar with forms, just to give a little brief background, you can create them in Google Docs. If you're on your Docs homepage, you just click Create and then Form. And the instructions are pretty intuitive, but you create a form and then you can share that form with anybody, and then any data that's put into that form is populated into a spreadsheet. And so Jennifer, you make that spreadsheet public for your students, or at least viewable by your students.
Mm-hmm. I just publish it under File, you know, publish to the web.
Yeah, and then
after I hide their names. After I hide their names. So.
Right, exactly. And that's something I think David was going to demonstrate, the different ways you can share a document, whether that be a spreadsheet, a presentation, or a text document, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I mean, I can talk a little bit about the ways that you can share documents. I think just so that people are aware, there's this difference between sort of private and following the link, or within the organization and things like that, which, you know, I think confuses a lot of people when they first see the different sharing options that are available in Google Docs.
Go for it.
Oh, so you want me to talk about that now?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was going to talk about the margin comments first.
Okay, yeah, go for that. Yeah.
Because I mean that was the main thing. I mean I thought the sharing thing was perhaps an additional thing afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a presentation, unfortunately, for this.
No slide deck?
I've got no slides. What did I do? What have I been doing all day? I don't know. You know, just lounging around, I think, in the evening. So yeah, I mean, I think I just wanted to talk for people who are not familiar with it. I think probably most people here are familiar with this idea of margin comments within Google Docs. The idea that you can select a little bit of text and then, you know, make a side comment in it. Maybe I'll just quickly screen share so we can see an example of this for people who are not familiar with it. Let's try and screen share. Where are we? Just wait a sec. Okay, let me just. Okay. Oh no, not that. I don't want that. Where's my other window? Okay. You know, this is. Can you see that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can everyone see the Google document?
Yes. And we have to say, we can't nod, we have to say it out loud because he can't see us anymore, you guys.
Yeah, so once I go, then just nodding or thumbs up is not going to help. So this is an example.
I'm here. I just can't get my camera working.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Carol.
Hi.
Carol.
But can you see Carol? Can you see
I can.
Okay, great. So yeah, I mean, this is an example today. I mean, just to give you a bit of background, I'm an ESL teacher at a university. and I teach courses for students who are preparing to enter the university, but whose English level is not good enough. So a lot of our job is to bring up their writing ability, so they're in a position to take up their master's or PhD position later. So a lot of our work is dealing with sort of both linguistic and content issues with students writing. This was an example earlier today I was marking of a French student who'd written an essay. She was actually writing a TV review. We try to get them writing in different genres, and you can see you've got the side comments here. And they're relatively simple to do. In case anyone doesn't know, I know Kevin has written a post about this, about the shortcuts for making side comments. So if I want to make a side comment, I can just select a little bit of text. On a Mac, I think it's Alt Command and M, and then you get that side comment down the side, and then you can make the comment whatever it is. I mean, this would just be a random comment here. And let's say they made a mistake with, say, tens, and then I can just click the comment there, and then that's available for the person I've shared this document with to see. So I use this a lot, particularly for students, to identify any issues they're having with their writing, to identify corrections they need to make, or just to make positive comments as well. You can see with the next one here. Oh no. Where are we? Let's go up again. So here, this one here, this is a positive comment where there's a little smiley face saying something nice about what they've done, but a lot of it is corrections for them to do. And I think what I really like about this is that there's an interactive nature to these side comments, and that students can, and you can see here, the student has read this essay and read my comments, and I indicated here, for example, that there was a missing word, and she can then write herself a response to that and identify what the missing word should be, and then I can do it again underneath, and I can respond and tell her whether it's correct or not. So you can have this conversation down the side of the page, which is a very unusual thing with a piece of writing. It's very difficult normally to do that, particularly with pen written essays, or even with something like Microsoft Word. It's you've got this interactive, constantly updated conversation down the side of the page. And what's even nicer about this is that you get email notifications. So for example, when my student writes a correction, I get an email notification, which I can then actually deal with within my email. If I can just show that. You can see here, when my student corrected this, I got an email, and this is what the email looks like. And you can see there's my original comment, and there's her correction here. If I want, I can actually reply and correct or comment on her comment straight directly from my email. So I can click on reply, and it gets just up a little email box, and anything I type here will then immediately show up actually in the side panel and in the comments in the margin as part of the conversation. So I think that's a really, really useful tool for commenting on students' work, and also correcting students' work as well if it needs to be corrected. Let me just go back to that again. Oh no, wrong one. Sorry, struggling to find this. Oh god, where have I got it? Let's get rid of this. Okay. So yeah, so this is a very common way and a very useful way for using the side comments for students. Another way that you can use side comments as well, and I have done, is also for students to interact with each other about their essays. Let me just find an example of this. Like here, this would be an example where I get students to share their written work with each other, and then get them to look at each other's work and comment on each other's work. And here is an example where you see a whole class basically looking at each other's drafts of something they've written, and giving them both sort of positive and potentially sort of changing comments for them to make about their essay. And so I think that another way that they can use these side comments and margin comments is for students to interact with each other and comment on each other's drafts. And I think that's a really nice way for them to get feedback on their work and not just feedback from the teacher as well. One last way that I use it as well is sometimes to actually get students to analyze text. And you can use these side comments as a way of actually posing questions to students, which they then have to answer. This is an example of one where I have two versions of a text, and then I highlight different parts of the text, and then in the side margin just put some questions for them to answer. And really it's a way of doing forms of reading comprehension or checking their understanding of language or content, and then students can write their answers in the sidebar as well. And again, this is a really nice way to check whether they've understood a text or understood something about the writing process. I mean, this is fairly low-level stuff because some of my students are quite low-level, but I found it a great way for students to kind of see each other's work, to interact with each other, and also for me to interact with students both at the drafting stage and at the final sort of assessment stage where I'm assessing their writing as well. So I think those are the ways that I've used the margin comments. I don't know if you use them in a similar way, or whether it's something that you find is useful to comment on students' work.
I got to tell you, I started out trying to use this feature, and I found that it was a lot slower than just using paper and a pen until I learned the keyboard shortcuts, and that made the difference. As soon as I learned that trick that you just talked about, the Option Command M, and then to actually submit the comment, if you hit Control Return, that actually submits it, and that little step made all the difference in the world.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. I think it's true. I think the process of doing it through sort of right-clicking or going through the menus at the top of the page is fairly kind of lengthy, and it makes it a laborious process, but the shortcuts make it much quicker.
Yeah. And then it's great. And I know that my students are really thirsty for instant feedback, and this is a way that we can provide. We don't have to wait till the next day necessarily. I know I don't, we all try to grade our papers as quickly as possible, but this does help speed the process along a little faster.
Yeah.
So kind of on that note, I was going to talk a little bit about how I do the same thing. I use the commenting features, but then to actually evaluate or grade a paper, I use a form, and I thought I'd share with you all how I do that.
Oh, cool.
Let's see, let me go to my screen share, and I'm going to go here. So I created a form. So this is a sample of a form that I made for a specific given assignment. You see that it's the Antigone essay rubric form. It's similar to what Jennifer had as self-evaluation, but I always start with a section number, and I require that I fill it out myself. And one thing a lot of people forget is that you can just use forms for yourself rather than distributing them to other people. It's a great way to organize your own data. So I have all my student papers in the docs list, and then I click what section number, what last name they are, and then I could even, if I wanted to create a code that I knew, that some secret code that only I knew, if I shared this form out with others, I could create a secret code that only I knew, that I would know that I was the one who submitted this form. But then I have the rubric separated by content, order, style, editing, and miscellaneous, and I'm using the grid feature. And I made it sure everything's categorized from 1 to 4, and there are 25 items, so when you add them all up, that adds to 100. So you get 100% on this. And then at the bottom of this is a comment field where I can post any comments. And so I go through and I submit that, and I want to go back to my screen here and show you that you can do it on the computer, or if you have a tablet, I don't know if you can see this, but that's the same thing, and I can just sit there with the document on my computer screen and the
great
tablet
idea.
right here and just type on the tablet. And it makes the process just a little less tedious. Good use for a tablet, I think. And then I'll show you what the output looks like. So here's a spreadsheet of a recent series of grades, and you can see all the numbers. I have the names hidden to protect their privacy, but you can see all these numbers across for each category, and then I just created a formula and I added it all up, and the student received a 90, and you can see the names here of the students. And then one trick that you'll need to know is that it doesn't, if you create a formula at the top that adds up all of these numbers, it doesn't automatically fill those in. So what you need to do is enter in the formula after you submit the form, and then you've got one, and if you just hit Command and click and drag it down, it'll automatically add up all the numbers. And then if you were really clever, you would find some sort of JavaScript that would send all of this data back to the student. I'm still learning how to do all that, but until then, I just copy and paste each row and then paste it into an email to each of my students. And that seems to work pretty well.
So I have a tip for you on that. The script is called valmerge, and Alice Keeler is the expert on it.
Oh, yeah, Alice is awesome.
Yeah, so she kind of taught me how to use it, walked me through it. I have another friend who's really comfortable with, she's not a Google certified teacher, she's just really comfortable with Word and mail merge in Word and Excel. So she'll take a spreadsheet like that and download it to Excel and do a mail merge with a Word document and literally print it out for her students. She doesn't even try and email it, she'll just print it for them so they'll get their feedback on a sheet of paper. Which to me kind of defeats the purpose of being paperless a little bit, but I've done it where there's student emails in the form. It's a little tricky because then either you have to enter all the student emails or they have to enter all the student emails. It's a little tricky to get that data into the form where you can use it, but working those bugs out. And yeah, with valmerge you can do an email, send the data back to the kids, or with just Excel and Word is a little bit less techy is a way to get it back to the kids too. Oh, Carol, I see lights on your screen.
Can you hear me? I'm sorry, I muted my. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You can't see me though, right?
No, not yet. I see. It looks like there's something blocking your camera.
I think you got, there's some sort of. Looks like you've got a screen or something there. So it's called valmerge.
Valmerge is the script.
And you can search for that in the script area.
You can insert script, and it's called valmerge. I think if you do a search in the insert script for mail merge, that's the one that comes up, or one of the ones that comes up. It's not completely user-friendly. It's definitely something you have to sort of work your way through and figure out how it's going to work for you. It has instructions that are not completely user-friendly. So I think I might resort to the Microsoft Word, Excel option for mail merging at this point if I was scared. But
right.
You can do it with valmerge. I've done it with valmerge. It just wasn't super easy. So this is Google. They should find a way to make it easy.
Right.
Okay, I was going to show one more thing, and then we'll see what other people have. When you talked, Jennifer, you talked a little bit about scaffolding. I created a template for my students to help them organize their essays in a little bit of a different way. And if you go to your docs list, let me share my screen here. And you go to Create, and then click From Template. This brings you to all the templates that are out there. And I created a template called the Essay Machine. And if you just type the Essay Machine, my template should come up. And if you just click Use this template, it brings up a document. I just created a table. And I can share this with all of my students, and they can type in their title, and it explains the kind of requirements that I have for a title, and then their hook sentence, and then focusing sentences, and their thesis sentences, and then for each body, I require that they do fill in specific types of sentences. And this is very formulaic, but for my students who are new to writing organized essays, they find that this is pretty helpful. And so that I ask for specific textual evidence and then explain what the evidence means and then conclude the paragraph, and then they move on to the next body paragraph. And I found that this is pretty helpful. It avoids the blank page syndrome, a lot of the, probably in a very similar way that your form does. And then, so they have to do that 3 times with 3 body paragraphs, and then their conclusion down at the bottom. And they can just add all these things up, and then at the end I force them to come up with a ending that resonates with the audience and answers the question, so what?
Yeah.
So anyone is welcome to use that, or just kind of use this as a model to create your own essay machine or just your framework for essays.
I already have a copy of it now. I have a quick question. How do you push it out to the kids through the template gallery then?
Exactly.
They go to the template gallery and do that?
Well, no, actually, you can link to any template. So if you go to, let me share my screen again. So if you're in the, if you get to the template and you go to the preview page, just click on preview, and then it brings up the preview of it, and then this link that's at the top of the screen, you can just paste that, and you can send that link out, and that takes them exactly to this page.
Nice. I like that.
Template. So there's multiple ways that they can get there. That's, I think, is the easiest and most direct.
Okay, so I have a very simple question, because basically everything that you just presented is like the stuff that I'm dabbling in right now. Like I have like a carbon copy of that without like the complete details. So I used to give students literally a handout that was like broke down the paragraphs, topic, sentence, concrete detail, commentary. We talked about what all that was. So the idea of taking that online is awesome and totally something I'm excited to do. And then I created a form for each type of writing, argument, informative, and narrative based on the Common Core State Standards, and have, you know, the different parts. So here's a really like new Google certified teacher question I feel like I should totally know the answer to. So when I go to the URL, like I go into my Google Docs and I like open up my narrative rubric or whatever, it sends me to the spreadsheet. What I want to see the form. Like, what am I missing?
Can I tell her? Can I tell her?
You want to take that, Jen?
Help me. I know the answer is so simple. I'm almost embarrassed as I'm recording.
Okay, I got this one. Okay, so I'm gonna screen share. I'm gonna go to, let's see, I'll pick a doc. Let's go to my docs list. Oh yeah, Firefox. Okay. Let me find a form. Oh, no, not that one. Choose this one. Oh, crud. Don't use that one. Wait, sorry. Don't use that one. One that doesn't have student names on it. So I made today for our vice principal. He came to me. He said, I know how I do it. I said, you come to me. So he needed feedback from our staff about our homeschool compact, and I needed to make him a form. So of course I did create form, and I edited the form right in front of him, and we put it up on the big screen, and he gave me feedback on it. Now let's say that he emailed me back and said, wait, in the third section it has to say this and not that. Well, that's really easy. Are you looking at my screen? Okay, good. So right here where it says form.
Yeah.
Edit form. Is that what you want?
Yeah, well, and I guess because up when you click on form, and the second one is like view form, right?
Well, you probably want to go to the live form, I think.
So
I just wanted to be, well, I just wanted to be able to, because I'm sending it out to kids, but I just want to, you know, I want to take a look at the form, or I want to edit the form. Both of those are helpful for me. I just, all I was seeing on spreadsheet.
Yeah.
You go to the live form, and you'll see a link at the bottom of the page, and that's the link you want to send out to your students.
Okay.
Actually, from the live form, it's the link at the top of the page. It would be the URL in the window. If you're at the editing stage, edit form, it's the link at the bottom of the page.
Okay.
So at the bottom.
Right.
That's where you can do that and send it to your students. Honestly, I have so much trouble copying that because my computer starts to do funny things, and you know, it's just. So I like to the I like to just go to the live form.
Yeah.
URL off there, then I know I'm getting the right thing and I know exactly what my students are going to see. And
Okay.
it's a lot easier than trying to drag it across that URL at the bottom.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. That was totally something I've been like, I feel like I'm just missing something basic, and I was. Awesome.
I was in a Google Hangout with actual Googlers talking about Google Forms, and they got a question from somebody about the very same thing. So. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and what I did because I feel like, so we're having this we're shifting to the Common Core state standards, and everybody's hearing about it, and a lot of my teachers on my campus have no idea. I mean, they're just like barely hearing about it from the admin. So what I did was I created these docs at the various, for the various kinds of writing, and what I wanted to do to help students understand, because, we are constantly revising our writing, so it is helpful for me to give them really thorough evidence, and I'm kind of one of those teachers that, like, whether it's digital or red pen on paper, it's like a vomit session on because I want them to get better. I want them to use it to revise. But I also want to engage them in peer editing and revising, which is also a part of the Common Core standards, but it's like the blind leading the blind. So I want them to use these forms as they progress and give each other feedback using the forms that I am eventually going to be using to assess their own essays, just to raise awareness about the components and how, because I did it on a 4-point scale. So how well are you doing this? How well are you doing that? And then I can, on their doc, I can give them comments in the sidebar, which I'm really comfortable doing. But I think in terms of peer editing, forms can be a really valuable way to, like, pinpoint exactly what the feedback is I'm looking for them to give to each other. So that's how I'm using them.
I love forms.
Mm-hmm. I love the little neat spreadsheet. I love the spreadsheet. It's so much easier to deal with than like a stack of papers.
I like to give kids assessments using forms, because then as I'm grading, even if I don't use multiple choice a lot, but if it's a short answer and I'm grading the form, I'm grading the spreadsheet, so I'm grading this question. Mm-hmm. And it's the same, I'm looking for the same answer every time. And then I'm grading the next question every time. So it's a lot easier on my brain to have to just look for one thing each time.
Can I jump in for a second?
If you're doing that, are you familiar with the conditional? Okay.
I'm sorry, did you hear me? I'm not sure if you did.
Yeah, we heard you.
No camera, no audio. I just have one thing. I made this probably 4 years ago, but since you're talking about peer editing, do you mind if I show one thing?
Sure.
Hang on. I hope you see the screen.
Yay!
Yeah.
Okay. This is old, but you were just talking about students in peer editing. So I use this one to get them to reflect on their partner's compositions. So whatever I'm teaching, that's what these questions would be about. So they're looking at, the elements that I'm looking for in a piece of work, and then they will tell me at the end whether or not it's ready. Whether or not they're ready once they've worked with their peer editor. What I'd like to put at the bottom of this, because I say this is an old one, is at the end, make sure they've shared it and then copy and paste the URL for their doc. So now that's all going to populate in a spreadsheet for me, and I can gather them more quickly and just click on them and look at their docs. Sorry, you were talking about that, so I think I just throw that in. It's just a little side thing. All right, so I'll get back the screen here. I'm going to turn my microphone off again. Kevin, you're taking back the screen. Okay.
That's very cool. One thing I was going to say about Jennifer, if you're doing a quiz that has one-word answers, there's a feature that you can set up conditional formatting. So it asks an if-then question on any given column, and you could do an if the submission is this word, then you could say then turn it green. And so you can set it so that every correct answer shows up green on your spreadsheet, which is another.
How do you do that?
Okay, let me see if I can set this up. I was going to show you an example, but I don't have one handy. But let's see here.
Kevin, what's your blog? Out of curiosity.
What's my? It's called iteachithink.com.
Yeah, I love that.
So,
Change colors with rules, right?
Yeah, so I'm going to go to, let me share my screen here and see if I can get this to work and show you what I mean. So here is, okay, so here's a list of like a vocab quiz where students have submitted their answers. So the first, so if I go to, let me just click this one. And this is a medical doctor specializing in the treatment of the diseases of the eye, ophthalmologist. So I just selected that one. I copied the text, and I'm going to go to Format and then Conditional Formatting. And if the text contains ophthalmologist, I can set the text color to be green and then save rules. Oh wait, I didn't select the entire column, so let's try that again. You need to have the column selected, format, conditional formatting. Let's see if this works. Oh man, didn't work. Let's try it again. Let's try this word. Yeah, psychiatrist. This may work. So I'm going to select the entire column, format, conditional formatting, text contains psychiatrist, and if it is, it should turn green, save rules. Okay, there we go. I don't know if you can see that,
Yeah.
but the people who put psychologist, it was black. So it's just a quick little tool that you can enter in all the correct answers, and they turn.
And you can choose to change the text color or the background color. I usually change the background color, so that if it's wrong, it turns the background of another color.
Yeah, you can do the background color or the text. It doesn't matter. What's that? Yeah. So let me show you. If I do cardiologist here, format, conditional formatting. You can do the background color. You know, I can make that blue, say rules, and there you go.
Oh, yeah.
One
Wow.
more comment. If you're on your feet walking around the room and you
And as you can tell, it's not case sensitive.
can you hear me?
I can hear you, Carol.
Okay. If you're on your feet walking
You
around,
broke up on me. Try again.
I'm just saying the method that you're using here. If you're on your feet walking around the room and it's color-coded like that, you can quickly see who had the answer right and who had it wrong. It's kind of cool.
Oh, like if you have a tablet and they all have like computers or whatever?
Yeah.
I mean,
and
you're looking at, you've scripted it so that, you know, certain answers are one color, then you can quickly see who didn't get it. You know, status of the class kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah, and
Very
it should
cool.
happen in real time. Yeah. So.
Like as they add to the form, the color's popping up?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, we'd have to try that. Sometimes these higher-end things don't work when new form submissions happen. That's if you saw the way I had the formula for adding up all the grades, you have to manually, after the fact, resubmit that formula. So you may have to do this again after the fact.
Wow.
All right. Let's go back to the planning document. Anyone else have anything they want to talk about? We're getting close to an hour.
This has been great. I would love to do this on a regular basis. I have learned a lot.
Oh, me too.
I just wanted to ask a question, really, because I say, I mean, I'm a reasonably sort of intermediate user of Google Docs, but I think people here seem advanced users of Google Docs.
Yeah.
In terms of things like creation of documents, is it your students who create documents, or do you create the documents for them and then share them with them? I particularly if they're going to be assessed, I tend to create them myself and then share them with them because of the sort of control aspect. But if it's just a sort of a generic essay they're writing, then they do it themselves. I mean, how do you deal with this issue?
Can I get that one?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Two ways, both ways that you mentioned. Sometimes I create something and I share it to them, but I don't share it to them individually. I already have created shared folders with my students.
Mm-hmm.
So let me switch over to Docs, and then I'll share my screen for a second. Hang on. Wrong folder. So, okay. All items. Okay, so let's this. Share screen. And pick that window. So I have an issue with collections. Please don't make fun of me. So I have a third period class, and my third period class has a view-only folder. And I have a fourth period class, and they have a view-only folder. And so any document that I put into that folder, they can view it, but they can't edit it.
Yeah.
And I use that to them. So let's see if I can show you something that's in there. Our school's daily bulletin is in there. My writer's notebook, for example, is in there. For example, I pushed out to them the I speech, and they have this comes up. So it's a view-only document. They have to make their own copy of it. So, but I wanted to format it with them fairly particularly. I wanted it to say the text, this is what it means. And because I had that formatting in mind to scaffold their reading, I needed to make the document, and I needed to share it to them. So I put it in their view-only folder, and then they can make their own copy of it. And in something like this where it's a reading, I usually don't have them share it back to me because I don't necessarily need to see everything that they read. I can walk around the room and check on their annotations and things like that. I might have a few specific kids share it back to me, or I might go to them and share it back to myself from their computer. But basically, they're going to just use this to do their reading. And then if they do a piece of writing, I'm sort of, let's see. If they're going to do a piece of writing, I can't show you how I use that because it will have their names on it. So let me stop sharing my screen and I'll just explain how I when they're doing a piece of writing and like an essay or something, they will create the document and they will share it with me. But I have a naming convention that's really important because I think that's super important to teach kids. You have to name your document a certain way or I won't know what it is. So in my classroom, the protocol is you always start your document name with the number of your period, and then your name, and then the name of the assignment. So you might be calling your essay something fancy, but there's a difference between the title of an essay and the file name of an essay. So it'll say, 3 Kevin persuasive essay as the file name when it comes into me, and then I will select those as they come in, check off in my grade book that I got them, like not just that I didn't grade them yet, but I got your document, and then I'll file them in a folder called Persuasive Essays that I'm going to grade later. And I make them share the essay with me the day they start it. So, hey, you just started your paper, share it with me now. I'm not done with it yet. I know you're not done with it yet. Share it with me anyway. I want to see you write it. I
think you're brilliant for starting with the period number. My periods change every day, but I start with the section number. That way, when you sort it, the first thing is it's sorted by period or class, and then it's sorted by name. That's
right.
That's really effective.
It's kept me sane.
And I love this whole share it right when you share it with me back before you've even really gotten into it, because then it's they never know when you might go in there and just kind of peek on the progress, which I love.
Oh yeah, and the other teachers on campus love it, especially resource teachers who support special ed students.
Oh right. Oh yeah.
They say to me, how's Johnny doing on his essay? And I say, oh, let me show you. How's David doing on his essay? Oh, let me show you. I can share their work, with their other teachers at any time they need an update. So it's great, and I can see early on if a child is struggling.
You can go back to the entire revision history.
Oh yeah.
Oh sorry, you can go back to the entire revision history, and you can see. If Johnny's been working diligently all during the 2 weeks since it was assigned, or did Johnny just wait till the very last minute and spent the whole last night working on it?
I love that.
Or did Johnny paste it all in one giant chunk because he got it off the internet?
Right.
And there's another thing you can do if you have them in collaborative groups or cooperative groups, that you can see who's doing the lion's share of the work. You look at that revision history, and then you go to Johnny and say, how come Susie and Mary are doing all the work? Yeah. Or that famous line, I did my homework. And then you say, Johnny, today's Friday, and revision history shows that no one's really logged in here since last Wednesday. Can you please explain to me how you did your homework last night? One other thing about the naming convention, which I think is great, putting the period first, encouraging them not to use nicknames and to all use the same pattern.
Yeah.
So, if you say last name, first name, and then the title of the assignment, then that's easier for you when you're gathering them.
Yep, definitely. Train them early and often. Well, good. I think there's a lot more to talk about, but we should probably call it a day and meet back again soon. What do you think?
I love that.
Yeah, I got to get my camera fixed here.
Exactly. You look a little fuzzy.
Yeah. Can I ask, I'm sorry, I looked late at this. Do we have others? We're streaming this and others are, we have others viewing this?
Yeah, the whole world is welcome to view this. My friend Diane is out there. She said she was viewing, and James, and who knows who else. And then also the entire video will be posted online on YouTube. I'll send out the link. You can do whatever you want with it. It'll be on my Hangout page or my Google Plus page.
Thanks, Kevin. And Kevin mentioned earlier when we got started that as soon as he kills the recording, it's also going to kill our Hangout here. So when he says goodbye and says we're done, we're really done.
It's over.
Okay.
All right, guys. Let's do this again soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
Sounds good.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.